Hello, we're live once again, twice in 1 week. Look at you. I'm just impressed that we've managed to do it again. So this time we have got our lovely nutritional therapist Olivier Sanchez joining us. And it's great to have Olivier on the team. First of all, it's great to have a man on the team because we are finding that we are getting lots of guys booking appointments now who are delighted to have a man on the team. And also the other thing about Olivier is that he is also not only a Michelin trained chef, but he's also a sports nutritionist, which is another huge asset because I didn't, to do sports nutrition, you really need to have expert training in that. You need to do further training. We do baseline training on the nutritional therapy course, but you really need to know what you're talking about, especially if you're working with professionals and people who are serious about sport. So I'm hoping that Olivier will join us in a minute, but I think that let me just see if let's see, I'm going to invite him to join because it hasn't worked so far. So let's try again and let's see if he manages to do it this time. We seem to be having a problem with joining. It might be an IT issue or Wi-Fi or something like that. Let's see. Right, we might be just about there. Let's see if he's just about to join. So I think that he's trying to join, but every time I accept him, maybe it's going to work this time. Every time I accept, it doesn't seem to come on, so I'm hoping it will this time. I think it has because something different happened. Yay, we did it!
It worked.
It worked. It didn't work the first couple of times I tried to accept you, and then I thought, oh, let's just hold that there. I think I've got this too high. I'll maybe take something down, and then it's not quite so high. There we go. Yeah, no, I couldn't accept you when I first tried. So
that's why I was like, okay, never mind.
I know. I tried several times, but now at least it's come on anyway. So I'm just introducing you there briefly. Obviously, some of our followers have seen you so far and know that you are another nutritional therapist on the team, which is brilliant. And Olivier has been with us since the autumn, so he's a fantastic asset to have around, and especially because of his background as a chef, which is really unusual because not all nutrition therapists, of course, are conveniently also chefs, and not only a chef but a Michelin trained chef. So that's about as good as it gets in cooking terms. So we're absolutely over the moon to have someone of your caliber and training and interest and passion as well on the team. So, but today we're going to talk about sports nutrition. This is something that, as I said just briefly at the beginning there, you really do need expert training in. It's not an easy topic. You have to be good at your maths. You have to do lots of adding up, lots of sums. It's very mathematical. And we all train in it a little bit, but you do have to go on and have further training if you want to do it seriously, and especially if you're working with professionals. So we're delighted that Olivier has that knowledge. But Olivier, how did you get into sports nutrition? What led you into that?
So actually, it's a very interesting story because it was not something that I was actually planning to do. And obviously, being a private chef, working for the rich and famous around the world, it was a lot of calorie counting. It was all about, keeping the slim figure and really looking good on camera and all the rest of it. So I really had to focus on their diet and making sure that I'm counting each calories and everything is accounted for. And then when they will come up in the afternoon seeing me and said, "Oh, just to let you know, I'm planning to have 2 or 3 glasses of champagne later today. Can you please reduce the calories from the meal?" So I had to redesign the menu to make sure that I could actually, kind of match their requirements. And obviously, when they're not doing much, they don't need much calorie anyway. So it was very low calorie diets and all the rest of it. And then obviously, because I had more and more demands for this type of jobs, now my kind of people looking after me saying, "Oh, we have a new job for you." So because nutrition is something that you like, we have a lot of athletes requiring to have a private chef to look after them and their diet and making sure that they can reach their goals. And I started to work with athletes in this way. And what it was is like, I was still focusing on the calories because it was all the trend at the time. Everybody was counting the calories. Everybody wanted to know exactly what to do and count and all the rest of it. So yes, mathematics in that way really mattered. However, when you come to performance with athletes, counting calories was actually counterproductive. Because what's happening is that if we focus solely on their calories, then they will reach a plateau and then they will not be able to kind of go higher, and their performance will kind of, just not going anywhere they want, especially in the long term. So reaching there was really good. And there, literally, they will stop and not going any further. So my thing is that I had to kind of rethink everything that I was doing with them. And then I really kind of say, now we need to stop focusing on a calorie. We need to focus on the food itself. And the thing as well, that when you work with wealthy people and professional athletes, they all have a team working for them. And most of them do have a personal trainer 24/7. But then the thing is, now I was working with all those people, giving conflicting advice all of the time. So I be actually in the middle and say, listen, all that you are being told, you need to actually consult with me, simply because if your PT is giving you nutrition advice, then something is categorically wrong here. Because unless your personal trainer is trained in nutrition, by law, they are not allowed to give nutritional advice. So what they tell you is what they learn at school. And being a good student or not being a good student, it doesn't matter. What they do is they regurgitate everything that they learn at school, putting in a paper and give it to everybody. So it doesn't matter you are a teenager, a middle-aged man, or a premenopausal woman, you will still have the same plan. And that for me doesn't work, because when I do take into consideration the goals that they want to achieve and what they have been doing until now, then I need to actually look at their body. I need to look at their age, at their sex, and everything that they do into their everyday life and their diet as well. So I'm not only looking at increasing performance. To increase performance, you need to look at all the barrages first, so that you can really identify the area where we need more. And usually it's diet, and usually sleep. So that's why for me, going into nutrition was really fascinating, because I was really doing the things that I love, and that was the food, that was nutrition. And of course, now with the mental health, it's all about and how you give time to your body to recuperate between exercise and training. Because what we need to understand with our jobs, for example, okay, we are a health practitioner, we have office worker who works 8 hours a day in the office, but athletes, they work to 8 hours in a gymnasium on a track, and then they run and they do their things, and that's their full-time job. So that demand on their body is huge compared to any of the people sitting on a chair all day in the office. So everything there needs to be kind of taken into consideration, and really kind of pile up all the bricks together, really make sure that we are really making a plan and really work for that person.
Absolutely, yeah. I must say I have that problem myself. If I'm going to have 3 glasses of champagne each night, I need to completely change my meal plan. That's so funny. But isn't it ironic that, in that industry where it's all about how you look and about vanity, that they take out fats because, of course, if they knew the impact that good fats would have on their skin, on their hair, and so on, and on their health and their hormones and their mental health, then, you know, they would certainly be wanting to keep those fats if they knew the benefits of them. But it's sad that there's so much ignorance about that and misinformation, and people are still living by that old paradigm of fat is somehow bad and is going to make you fat, whereas that's not the case at all. And the other thing about them coming to someone like you and taking advice is you're not just helping them with their sport, you're helping them with their health in the widest possible sense. And that's the beauty of working with nutritional therapists, that you know, we've got that wider knowledge, and it's really more about the health than it is just optimizing performance. So yeah, but really interesting, and that must have been such a an eye-opener working with people in that world, the sort of celebrity world and A-lister world.
Oh,
and yes, because I know for a long time you were working with Lord Andrew Lloyd Webber for a very long time.
Yes, a few years ago. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, yeah, and that must have meant that you came across all sorts of people, literally anyone and everyone in that world.
Exactly. So literally every day there will be a business lunch, and that will be any Hollywood star from the time, or even British stars, or anybody, or singers. Oh, it was just absolutely amazing, because obviously I will meet everybody. So it's another world.
Yeah, exactly, another world, and a very, very interesting. So the other thing that's interesting about the sports nutrition world, and this is an important question that I know you and I have discussed before, and it's about supplements. Because in my experience, because in fact, before we set up our own business with Nourishing Insights, I worked for a while with the NutriCentre when I was first qualified as a nutritionist, and that was really, really interesting. But most of the people who came there were actually people wanting to buy things for sport. And they would buy all sorts of crazy stuff that they just didn't need. And I really hated that industry, and also the quality. I felt the quality of the product just wasn't there. And I really felt there's no way I'm going to go into the sports game, because there's so much rubbish out there. And plus the fact you really do have to be a trained sports nutritionist to do it properly. So we didn't do that. But within that industry, there's so much hype, so much marketing. And people buy into that because they're obsessed, and they think they need their branched chain amino acids, or they need this or that or the next thing, or their protein shakes. And then you have people buying protein shakes that are full of dairy, and they've got a dairy intolerance, and then they put on a stone because they're taking a dairy-based, a whey-based protein shake, and so it goes on. So it's a complete minefield. So I just thought, can you sort of give us some examples of the traps that people get into on that subject?
Well, first of all, as soon as I have a new client, or I start to work with a new athletes that I've never worked before, and then they literally ask me straight away my point of view on powders or protein powders, then that's it. I'm starting laughing, and I'm like, here we go again. So it really means that whatever they have been told, or whatever they know about nutrition and sport and nutrition and what their body needs, is completely biased. They really don't understand how their body works if they think they need protein powder. And especially that when it comes to competing athletes, like elite athletes, they have actually a team of people working for them. And the thing is that they need to understand their body to actually progress and improve and win competitions. But the thing is that if you are relying on products that are not adequate for your kind of exercise. So for example, there is a big difference between sports that includes tolerance, like endurance, and where you need to have stamina. But you also have the different style of sport, which now ask you for a lot of energy, and that will be the weightlifting, the bodybuilders, and everything. So as you can see already, the body types is definitely not the same. So if you really look at a marathon runner or a triathlon, or those athletes, they are so skinny. They really just pure muscles and bones. And then you look at the weightlifters, they are huge. Their arms is like twice my legs, for example, so they really have a different body structure, and therefore they don't have the same nutritional requirement, and their window of eating is not the same as well. So when I'm asked about protein powder, I'm like, I'm sorry, what? You don't need protein powder for your kind of sport, for example. Or yes, you may need protein powder, but then did you read the label? Do you know what's inside? What's the purpose of you taking those powders? Do you want to increase body mass? Do you want to have more energy? What is it? Because obviously many comes with caffeine as well, or they come with a lot of junk, to be honest. But the thing is that what actually I have to teach athletes is that whenever you take protein powder, and depending on how much you take of it, you actually may overdosing on protein and far too much for your body weight, for example, of your height, of your kind of exercise. So literally now we are going into hypercalorie intakes, which really is detrimental to performance, because obviously if you have kind of too many protein in your body, for example, imagine how when they start putrefying in your gut and creating inflammation, that is also kind of exacerbated by stress because of all the exercising and the stress that you impact on your body. And then you imagine that all those unused calories will be turned into sugars, and then they will be stored as fat. So all you have been trying to do to gain weight is now turning into putting fat on. So the thing is now is like already counterproductive. But the thing is, like I said, is already, and we know that is mostly junk. So most of the time you will have extract from milk, from soy, from wheat, and you have some added synthetic vitamins to claim that it will support your body systems because this and this and that. And then of course you have flavorings. But flavorings, you never know what it is. It could as well be MSG. It could be anything chemical to enhance the taste. And, you know, I don't want to be kind of discriminatory in any way, but vegan powders are the same. You know, they use pea, they use oats, they use rice as the main ingredient for proteins. But we know, for example, that rice is really kind of famous for being laden with arsenic due to farming methods. So now everything that has rice will have arsenic, but now this is extract. So you will also have extract of arsenic. You will also have extract of everything that has been used in farming. So the pesticide, the insecticide, and all the rest of it. Plus, you do have to have those kind of additive to make sure that powder just doesn't go moldy and you keep it for so many years, because if you look at the label, some of them are you can keep for 2 or 3 years. So, but the thing is, what we know as practitioners, that dairy products already can irritate the gut in most of our clients, and we see it nearly every day. And we also know that rice is a big problem for many people. And again, maybe because of arsenic, or maybe because rice is a problem in itself, because rice is still grain, and yet it doesn't contain wheat gluten, but it contains rice gluten, a kind of glue protein that is still inflammatory for many, many people. And now if we look at the potential to irritate and inflame the gut, which can be exacerbated again by the stress that you impact on your body because you are exercising more than the average person. But then this can also inevitably impede on the performance via a disturbed gut microbiome, because we know, especially athletes, they really need to look after the gut, and that is their major priority, because we also know that most of the human cells are in the gut. So immune dysregulation in athletes is very, very common, and that's why many athletes come down with flu and cold more often than other people, because their immune system are hyperactivated most of the time. But then I also want to go back to the protein powders, because research shows, and there's tsunami of evidence that shows that those products are also packed with undesirable ingredients, and not only the intentionally added ingredients, but also the intentionally added ingredients. And that are the things like lead, BPA, cadmium, and arsenic. So the manufacturer is actually not putting these ingredients in the final product, but they are appearing because of the processing method, the farming method. And so they end up in the final product. And many of the companies don't actually test for heavy metal. And we know that heavy metals are a huge concern for the body, and especially those like aluminum as well, who can actually go cross into the brain and really inflame the brain. And we know that can lead to poor mental capacities. And so when you are brain fogged and you are tired and all the rest of it, when you're an athlete, your performance will not be great. So you really need to really focus on what you put in your body and why. Because if you want to improve your performance, you need to look at everything.
You do. I mean, the whole thing is a minefield.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's where, as I said, you know, you do need that expert knowledge. And obviously, you know, even the average sports nutritionist, actually, to be fair, wouldn't have as vast a knowledge as you do, because you've gone into the minutiae of exactly what's in all of the products. And that's fantastic, because from a health point of view, you know, most people who are getting into sport and getting into some sort of athletics are doing it for their health, so they think they're doing it for their health. But isn't it a shame that they're trying to exercise because they think that's good for their health, but then they're taking some kind of product which actually is anything but, and it might be even actively disrupting all sorts of things. So it's interesting. And the arsenic thing is an interesting one with the rice. Obviously, you know, you're having a tiny splash of rice milk in your tea now and again, that doesn't matter. But if you're having it all the time, as you would be if it was a rice protein in a shake or something, it's all about the load, the amount that you're exposed to. Then it becomes a problem. And even interestingly, doctors, pediatricians now are even mentioning to some parents about, you know, going too far over to the rice milk for those kids with the cow's milk protein allergy, because rice milk obviously is used a lot. It's quite sweet, it's quite attractive to children. So again, it's about not overdoing things like that and being aware of what your food actually contains. But, you know, within all of that, you know, thinking about the types of sports, you know, why would someone come to you? Is it just the high-end athletes that you work with, or what sort of people? This is a really good question. What sort of people, who would you work with? Who's your typical client?
So actually, it depends. So if I do have elite athletes, it's a different ballgame, because I belong to a team. So there is like everything is kind of built as a team, if that makes sense. So I will need to come up with my program. I need to come up with my plan, the things that I want to do, and the food that I will recommend. And then it goes to review, and everybody agree. And then when everybody agree, then I may or may not be cooking for them as well. Or I may have the very beginners athletes who yet cannot afford to have the entire team. So what I will do is I will actually try to set them up on their new journey. So I really start with them at the very, very basic and explain to them how I work, how their body works. And then obviously, sometimes I go through 2 or 3 hours consultations to really understand how their body works, how they actually sleep, how their body responds to stress, what is actually their coping mechanisms, what do they do to relax, and also what type of sport they are doing. Because again, not all sports require the same stuff. Like mentioning, if you need to build, for example, endurance, what you need to do is to actually make sure that you have an ongoing supply of energy for the body. But if you go into the weightlifting sport, for example, or anything that asks for strength, then you really need to build your muscles and really increase your body mass, and really kind of asking your body to give that short burst of energy that can last for just a few seconds, maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds. And so, for example, those people who do lift those very, very heavy weights, they just go and 10 seconds later it's finished. You know, they do this 3 times, and yes, you're an Olympic winner or you're not. So that's why these kind of impulses really need to be brought by the body, and you need to have that energy to be able to actually do this. And usually this is done via the stress response, because what you are doing is that you are stressing your body to such extent that you are doing superhuman things, meaning that you are doing things that your body will not be able to do otherwise if you were not in that position of heightened stress response.
Yeah.
So this was actually a very simple mechanism that nature gave us. Like, for example, we know from the fight and flight story, that if we were to face a beast, we know that we had to fight or run as fast as possible and have that energy that we will not have otherwise. So this is really something really great to know. But the thing is, it's even more funny, because when you say to an athlete, oh, what's your stress response? And they look at me, but I'm not stressed. Yes, but it's not about the emotional stress or the mental stress. It's the stress that you put on your body. Because imagine lifting 300 kilos, the stress on your bones, on your muscle tissue, and the knees, your hips, you know, you putting 300 kilos on your bones and on your joints, and imagine the damage that can cause, especially if you do it every day, all day long.
That's right. Huge demands on the body, huge demands. Absolutely. So yeah, so lots of people that you work with, though, and it's all types of sport. It's just that the needs are completely different, and I think that's the key, that whoever you work with, you're starting from a completely different starting point. And also, as I kind of mentioned briefly at the beginning, that, you know, if people come to us just because they maybe want to optimize a particular sport, they will also have their history that they bring with them, whether that history is maybe they get migraines occasionally, maybe they have a touch of IBS, maybe they have eczema. You know, they will have other things going on. And the advantage of working with us is that we can work with all of those different aspects as well, and actually optimize their health, not just optimize their performance. And that's really what it's about, and getting them to understand, if they are putting strain on the body, this has wider health implications. So we're really thinking holistically all the time in everything that we do. But what do you think are some of the things that people get wrong when they make nutritional changes? You know, if they think, right, I'm going to change this, what do you think they get wrong? What are key things they get wrong? To give just a quick couple of examples.
Actually, there are a few key things, but I think one of the first thing is that, for example, somebody who is extremely busy at work or has a very busy lifestyle, where it's a stressful job, and then they want to go to the gym to get rid of that excess stress. Fair enough. But the problem is, because they're still in that kind of activity stress response, when they eat the gym, they are still stressed. And what they do is that they're kind of pushing their body to the limit. And what they do is that, and even those who are actually starting to consider to become an athlete, and then they increase their regime. And what's happening now, they're shocking their body. Now, what's happening is that their body is under so much stress that everything switches off, literally. And I have seen it countless times. So now what's happening is that they start getting tired, they start going down with cold and flu, they have brain fog, they have all the usual gut issues and disorders that comes from stress disorders, really. And then suddenly they just don't feel motivated anymore, and then they stop, and then they want to start again, and they repeat the same cycle, and they don't understand why they can't jump on the ladder. And that's why, for me, it's like, if you want to become an athlete and you want to do it to elite level, you need to start slow. You need to start with what you can do, and then you build up to it. And the other thing as well is that, especially those who are into endurance training, they need to identify their VO2 max, which is literally the level of oxygen that is available in the blood during exercise. So those athletes who don't have enough oxygen will have a very low performance, when those who do have more will have more energy to produce, therefore will have more energy and better performance. So all of these things really matters. And the second thing is that this I see it in 95% of time, people taking those products, those supplements, you know, and then they think that they will magically increase their performance from day one. Yeah. But it doesn't work like this, you know, especially when, like we said earlier, they still look at fat like being a problem. So now what they are doing is that they're creating nutrient deficiency and imbalances in a way that they eat too much of one and not of the others. So especially those athletes who are into weightlifting, for example, they think they need those 2 kilos of protein a day. You know, it doesn't work like this, because the problem is, if you eat so much protein in a day, then it means that your calorie intake will not include the good carbs, it will not include the fat. And usually when you look at the weightlifting, the bodybuilders, they will actually avoid fat as much as possible, because what they want is to build muscle tissue, and they want those tissue to be well defined. If you have fat on top of your nice six-pack, it will not show, and this I understand. And further to that, they actually go into dehydration to have those muscles even more defined. So when I support people, especially bodybuilders, when they go before competitions, I change their diet completely, because they really run into the danger zone, especially that it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to really focus on those competitions, and then they do that non-stop. It's a big issue for the body, because the body really can't take it to that level.
Exactly. And it's ironic, isn't it, that people start off with good intentions, wanting to go to the gym or wanting to get healthy, but then of course it's, for a lot of people, it's about weight loss. It's about image, and then they think, oh well, I'm going to go to the gym, but I'm also going to stop eating this, and I'm going to add in these supplements that contain who knows what. And then they end up running into trouble. So yeah, it is back to that minefield, isn't it, with the whole subject. But when you do make an assessment, what sort of things are you looking for in that assessment, just to give people an idea of the things you would consider in an initial assessment?
I think one word: everything. I want to know everything about them. I want to know their diet, their lifestyle up to now, and what they are planning to change, if they want to change something. And I want to know about their sleep. I want to know about any medical condition that they may have, or anything that is suspect they may have. And I also want to understand their social life, the relationship that they have, any trauma that they experience as a child or any time in life. I really want to understand their emotional and mental balance and the support that they are receiving. Because we understand now that if you have some kind of emotional or mental imbalances in a way that you're not well supported in your social circle, for example, or if you are kind of alone in your way, because when you are elite athletes, it's all about protecting you. You always kind of isolated from the rest, and that can really play hugely on the mind. And then when you want to kind of perform, you always have some kind of barrages making you not progress at the level you want to, and at the speed as you want to. So for me, I want to understand everything. And also I want to understand their coping mechanisms. I want to understand the effect of stress on their body and on their mind, because I see it a million times. Because like I said, you have a busy job, you know, or you exercise every day. Your body is already under stress. But in your head, like, oh no, I'm fine, I'm coping, I don't have any issue. Yes, you think, or you believe, or you trick yourself to believe you are not stressed. But the concentration of stress hormone in your blood is the same as if you were emotionally stressed. So the issue still remains. So for me, I really focus on the stress, and I really focus on even if I'm working on a team, to make sure that the athlete has time to recuperate, and really focus on the sleep. So whenever sleep becomes a problem, then the whole team has to come on board to make sure that sleep is no longer a problem. Because without sleep, you can't heal and repair your tissue. And then you cannot balance your blood glucose. You cannot balance your lipid, your blood lipid. And then, of course, we know that the lymphatic system of the brain only works during deep sleep. So it means that if you don't reach deep sleep, you can't eliminate toxin, metabolic waste that has been accumulating during the day. And now you're supposed to eliminate them at night. But if you don't sleep, you don't, and that can lead to an accumulation. And of course, now this is extremely stressful for the body. It can inflame the brain, and it can lead to poor performance, of course. So all of this is kind of related. So that's why for me, stress and sleep and recuperation is the #1 priorities.
Absolutely. And I think that is for anyone that we work with, actually, whether they're coming to us for sport or for any other reason. These are the things that are key. And this is the beauty of the functional medicine model, because we're talking about all aspects of health. And obviously when we sleep, our bodies are actually extremely busy. There's an awful lot going on if we did but know. And sleep is one of those absolute miracles of nature. It really is, because it's so restorative. And yeah, you know, if you're hyped up, overdoing it at the gym or whatever, then that's going to overstimulate you. And often at gyms as well, they're looking at screens while they're pounding away on machines. So they're overstimulated with these machines they're looking at, which is going to suppress their melatonin and interfere with sleep. So it's all of these things that we need to consider. But also, you know, it's about people being self-aware. You know, yes, they might want to lose half a stone and that might be their motivation for getting into a certain sport, but or they might want to lose several stone. You know, there's lots of different motivations. But you know, if I think about my own health recently, and obviously, you know, as people know, we've had lots of changes with our business, we've had so many things happen, we've had various health problems going on in the family, and there've been lots of things, and actually we've been exhausted, overwhelmed, adrenally fatigued. And when you're in a state of depletion like that, you literally don't want to do anything. You don't want to get off the couch, never mind go to a gym or even go for a walk. And I think it is about accepting where you're at and thinking, well, if that's where you're at and you don't want to do anything, don't do it. Who says you have to do something? You know, it doesn't matter that you've gained a stone because you've been stressed or you haven't been sleeping or whatever. Just accept where you are. Take things really slowly. And if for you that means a drive in a car to somewhere nice, somewhere restorative, sitting there in the sunshine on a nice day, even if it's cold, you can wrap up, have a 10-minute stroll, not a run. And then 10 minutes might be all you can cope with, because recently, I have to be honest, that's about all I can cope with. Just getting through life, just getting through the day, going to work. You know, it's absolutely just as much as I could do. You know, when I think about it now, and I'm just at that turning point now. Obviously, the business has changed, and we've let go of the shop, and we're moving on. And so I have now got a bit more energy. I've got less stress. I'm starting to sleep better, and I'm going for more walks. But that is just happening naturally, organically. My food doesn't change. My diet doesn't change because I do the same things all the time, pretty much. But when you haven't slept, you do crave those carbs. There's no question if you're exhausted and you haven't slept, because the hormones are then affected. And, you know, if your ghrelin hormone goes climbing up, it's telling you need food and you need carbs and you need them now. And that's just basic physiology. But it's understanding these things. And when you understand those things, you start to be a bit kinder to yourself and think, well, it's not my fault, it's my hormones. It's because I'm not sleeping. It's because I'm stressed. And that's where even if you're not kind to yourself, Olivier and I and Alessa and Harriet, you know, but we're each working with clients for different reasons. We are very kind to you, and we make sure that you are kind to you, whatever it is you're coming for, and that you don't overdo things and you don't do the wrong things and you don't expect too much of yourself. Whatever your starting point in life. So I hope that that's been an eye-opener to lots of you. It's been encouraging. We're going to be recording a podcast as well, where we're going to go into a little bit more detail and look at some of the studies and things involved in sports nutrition. So that will be available soon as well. But if you do have any questions, then do just drop us an email, add it to this post, DM us, or you can book a discovery call and find out more if you think that this might be for you. But yes, if you're sitting there swithering and you're not sure, just reach out, just ask a question, and we'd be delighted to help you. So thank you to everyone who joined us live, and to everyone who is going to be following up later on tonight, maybe, or tomorrow. And finally, thanks to Olivier for today's discussion, which has been fabulous, so interesting and insightful, and what an interesting life you've had, fascinating life. So that'd be great. So we will see you again soon. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.